That's the end of the headlines, my friends, and now we're going to move on to the bigger news, starting with mass shooting news. Yeah, sorry, so this was kind of inevitable. This is a topical podcast, and this is a thing that happened, and as a news podcast, you are beholden to the important things that happen in the news. And by now, you've all undoubtedly heard about the mass shooting on Bondi Beach. And I can't say that Bondi Beach hasn't been a point of cultural cringe for many Australians, but a mass shooting is no way to handle societal issues unless you're going to shoot up the head office of Raytheon or Halliburton. That might work for some of us, but even then I feel like you get people pushing back against that. And even then, let's be honest, for those two officers, a drone strike will probably be more appropriate, but I digress. A mass shooting is such a rare event in Australia, rarer even than hearing us openly admit Russell Crowe is actually from New Zealand, but shh, don't tell them. For those whose birth years start with a 2, the last major mass shooting was in Tasmania and was responsible for the only good thing a coalition government has ever done for Australia, outside of Harold Holt, who, remember, removed a Liberal Party member from the Prime Ministership by being too horny to swim between the flags. Look it up, it's a true thing. That being the gun laws. Howard accidentally stumbled into good policy like a man tripping into a fire exit full of cupcakes. But when one does happen, Americans do very helpfully rush online to send us thoughts and prayers. Those thoughts often take the shape of, see, it happens there as well, despite America having had more mass shootings than there are days of the year this year alone. So far, we have at least a week of the year, we have the taint of the year left before we're done, before we're into 2026, so they can still beat their own record. Because nothing says national trauma like America's trying to gunsplain mass shooting to us. Which brings us back to the point where mass shootings are the latest in American culture war garbage that is being imported into Australia. This is something that can stay strictly offshore, if I'm being completely honest with you. The only thing America exports more reliably than mass shootings is the explanation for why they're unavoidable. After the attack that killed 15 people, Australia is now questioning the effectiveness of laws that have become a point of national pride, brought in by eyebrow-given sentient form John Howard. I shouldn't be too mean. To his one and only credit, John Howard's gun laws have saved countless lives. And it is in that spirit that the current Prime Minister acted, and acted fast, as Albo declared his intention to strengthen Australia's gun laws. And good on him! Good work, Albo. I believe that this is the sort of action that we need. It's decisive. It is quick. After the announcement, Howard, he must have been feeling threatened, as the coalition then rolled him out of his cryo-sleep, where he dreams of kicking refugee puppy immigrants with impunity, to milk the one thing that he did well by explaining to the populace which crisis actually deserves the attention and which is dismissible, calling the push to tighten gun laws in the wake of the Bondi attack an attempted diversion. Seems they thought him out much like a conservative Captain America, complete with the opinions of a Captain America from the actual 40s. You can see him emerging from his slumber, sort of like, what year is it? Are Muslims still the problem? No? Well, can we make them a problem again? Looks like someone remembered to take his grumpy out-of-touch cunt pills this morning, as Howard blasted the government for not acting strongly enough to combat anti-Semitism since October 2023. You can tell that Howard is getting old because he can't help but piss all over the one outlet of goodwill that this world has for him, sometimes as many as 2 or 3 times a night. He really should see a doctor for that. Seems like there's something wrong. The comments come as state and territory leaders agree to strong and focused action to reform Australia's gun laws by limiting the number of guns allowed to be owned by individuals, the types of guns deemed legal in Australia, and making citizenship a prerequisite for holding a gun license. But someone went and wound up the old culture war scarecrow and released him on Sky News, where he said of Anthony Albanese, "Now, I'm not going to malign his character and everything, but he's let the Jewish community down on this simply by not enthusiastically and energetically denouncing anti-Semitism." The day that Howard finally dies will be great for moving this country forward. For example, Howard welcomed a tightening of the current laws so long as it did not distract from action on anti-Semitism. And this seems like an unnecessary detail to add on. Obviously, we don't want anti-Semitism in this country, and it's not like we're doing nothing about it. Look at Home Affairs Minister Tony Burke, who recently declared that hate preachers and neo-Nazis spreading misinformation and radicalization in Australia will face faster visa cancellations and deportations. See, we are handling things, kind of, mostly, in our own way. As long as we don't fall into hyperbole and demonizing groups who have nothing to do with this issue at all, and cue all of the outrage in 3, 2, 1. There we go.
The idea you can secure any large group of people, in a country like Australia, the United States, or others, it's just not possible. We have to get them left of boom, left of the attack before they do it, infiltrate their networks, find their funders, and start rounding them up.
Fuck me. Blaming mass shootings on peace activists is a bold strategy. There is nothing like defending against anti-Semitism, like talking about rounding people up and putting them away. Wow, that escalated quickly from safety to 1939. So fast, so very fast. It's more tone deaf than Beethoven. Nothing screams, "We've learned nothing from history," like suggesting camps as a solution again. But you know what? That was America. There was an American news program speaking out of turn about an issue that happened here, so surely it'll be better here. In the land of sensible gun reform, is what I thought, until Pauline Hanson opened her gaping maw and unleashed a torrent of idiocy from the void within, saying the Prime Minister never heeded the warning signs, including the weekly anti-Semitic protests across our nation, hate speech from certain religious clerics, our obnoxious universities, and probable terrorist alert. I stand with Australia's Jewish community, who tonight deserve our absolute solace. You have the same right to live in peace and harmony as all Australians. Authorities must be honest when revealing the identities and backgrounds of these murderers. Whew! That was a lot. There was a lot of Pauline Hanson, and I apologise for exposing you to so much Pauline Hanson. Just take a second to breathe. There you go. Let it out. Pauline Hanson has seized the opportunity to use the nation's tragedy as a fresh chance to be the same old kind of cunt. She wants transparency so long as it only reveals the brown people that she currently doesn't like. Pauline Hanson demanding facts is as likely as Clive Palmer demanding a salad or offering to pay his employees properly, which leaves the gun reform debate in a precarious position of being hijacked by Olympic-level whataboutism. How dare a discussion about gun reform exist while other bad things have ever happened? Of course, sorry. How dare a discussion about gun reform exist while other bad things have ever happened ever in the history of ever? As the nation is told again and again to stop fixating on guns and start fixating on the correct moral panic, which was, of course, to focus on Muslims and migration. Classic scapegoating right there. It's good to see that we haven't changed the game. Netanyahu, the Israeli Pauline Hanson, linked the shooting to Australia's recognition of the Palestinian state. Wow, and I thought Howard was bad at turning an issue onto something that wasn't relevant, prompting cries of, we need to end migration all across the country. Well, all across very limited sections of very white parts of the country. But a lot of the people saying this shit are people who have adopted an ideology and national personality from a historically dangerous and questionable foreign regime, so obviously migration is the first thing that they're concerned about. The weirder part is that a bunch of these people who immediately jumped onto being angry at Muslims over the Bondi shooting conveniently forgot about the Muslim man who disarmed one of the shooters. Anthony Albanese did announce that sweeping reforms will be designed to clamp down on anti-Semitism in the wake of the terror attack. The reforms will hopefully start simply by stopping the sale of parts for the weapons that the Israeli government used to bomb the civilians of Gaza that has, if we're being completely honest, really been bad for Israel's international reputation. But hey, that's just between us. On top of this, National Cabinet has agreed unanimously to strengthen Australia's strict gun laws because apparently our "at least we're not America" is not a gun. Because apparently our standing "hey, at least we're not America" policy is actually not a gun policy. Because apparently it turns out that our "at least we're not America" standing policy is not a real gun policy and hasn't been getting the job done. It only took the second largest mass shooting in Australian history to bring politicians together on something that doesn't directly benefit them financially. The proposed legislation includes aggravated hate speech offences for preachers and leaders who promote violence, increased penalties for hate speech promoting violence, making hate an aggravating factor in sentencing crime for online threats and harassment, developing a regime for listing organisations whose leaders engage in hate speech, promoting violence or racial hatred, developing a narrow federal offence for serious vilification based on race and or advocating racial supremacy. But the first measures that we know definitely going onto the cards will be a gun buyback scheme. That's right, we've done it! Choo-choo-choo! We are repeating history! And that's not to say that this is a bad thing, this is actually a great idea. It's just, do we not do multiple things at once? Anyway, the Albanese government will introduce legislation for a gun buyback scheme, which will be jointly funded by the states and federal government. But how will we pay for all this when we can't afford to pay Centrelink recipients an amount of money that will take them above poverty wages, you might be asking? That's a good question. Simple. We will pay the gun buyback scheme by selling all of those guns to America. America's ongoing national breakdown will probably help us out in this situation. Australia's weapons will be rehomed with loving, lightly regulated families. This is a vital habit to keep us from becoming more like America. And the PM has assured us that while hundreds of thousands of guns will go, the culture wars will remain. So don't worry guys, we got you. But to be honest, this is just the tip of the iceberg. I am not convinced that this will be nearly enough. It is clear that the gun laws have a very specific intention: reduce the amount of bullets that a person can shoot in quick succession, which is a noble goal. So it is clear to me how this should manifest ultimately. If we are keeping guns in the populace, then the only guns that we're allowed to own are colonial muskets. The old school, the ones that you've got to pack with the black powder and then put the ball in and then tamp it down, right? Maximum 3 shots a minute. And that's only if you're good at it. But truly, if we want to make change, I can see 2 things in direct clash with each other. There are a lot of shooters, farmers and hunters who say it's not the guns, it's the immigration that's the problem. A scapegoat that's as old as time. Immigrants. People coming here not respecting the local way of life, not integrating into local culture. So, to help the hunters who need to hunt for their safety and for their way of life, we will go back to the old ways. The old ways. No, the old ways. Full integration into native hunting style. No more guns. Only hunting with boomerangs and spears. So we're going to offer up a new trade-in scheme. You'll get as many boomerangs and spears as the value of your gun will afford. Government-funded lessons on how to use them properly will come in handy, and 40,000 years of hunting this way has proved that it can be done. We wouldn't want to be contradictory now, would we? We couldn't criticize people for not integrating into the local way and then ourselves not be integrating into the local way. That'd be weapons grade level hypocrisy. Because if the argument is respect Australian culture, then congratulations. This is what Australian culture actually looks like.